Hello. It's been a long, long time, hasn't it? It's been too long, actually. Like, I'm so far behind on these episodes, I don't know what to tell you. Things got a little crazy for a little while, and my schedule got completely upended, and it's completely different than what it was. So, I don't know if I'm going to have to move the day of the show to keep doing it regularly, or just make it more informal and just do it whenever. Most of my other content, the rest of my video content has all degenerated into whatever. Like, whenever I can get a chance to do it, and that's when it goes up. So, I might do that with this, as long as I get an episode up a week. I don't know. That's probably stretching it, because I'm several weeks behind. It's not cold anymore. It's actually the beginning of summer, if that tells you just how long it's been between the last episode and this one. And, it has been a long time. How are you? So yeah. So with that being said, while this is a serious episode, of course, you might feel like you've been getting punked. Because this episode is about pranks. Let's talk about this. So, yeah, pranks. I've never been a fan of pranks, believe it or not. I don't usually like them. I don't really like awkward humor. I don't like awkward humor because it makes me feel kind of like I feel embarrassed for the people involved, both people doing the humor and the people on the receiving end of the humor. It's just a natural reaction I have every time. I don't watch awkward humor movies or shows and things because it's just I don't know. It's weird to me. But I know that pranks are a big thing for a lot of people, especially when you're younger. And I have done a few things. I have performed a few pranks as a youth. So I can't say that I'm entirely outside of the motion, but I've not really continued in a long, long time. I've kind of grown out of that. And some people don't grow out of it, and they say, well, why should you? It's all fun and games, right? But I don't know. A lot of pranks to me seem kind of mean-spirited. And that's just pretty much how I feel about them. But, you know, we're going to talk about something. Here in the United States, of course, I mean, this is May as of this recording. It's the second week of May? Third? My golly, I better look at the calendar. I don't even know anymore. I'm losing track of so much time. It is the third. It is the third week of May. It's the third week of May. And, but last month was April. And of course here in the United States we have April Fool's Day on April 1st. I hate it. I hate it. I can't stand it. I don't like the pranks that people do. And I don't like the attempts of being clever that people do either. I'm obviously very grouchy and very grumpy with life about things. And I don't like pranks. Like, April Fool's Day is the most annoying day. I tend to turn off my social media and like not even read anything because I know it's just going to be people making up jokes thinking they're funny, and most of the jokes are not funny, to be honest. They're just goofballs. And the few that are, I'm kind of like, but I don't celebrate the day. And but there's a lot of famous pranks out there. And some of them involve props. A lot of them involve props. But some of them don't. Like, there's the old whoopee cushion gag. That's a prank. I don't know how often people still do the whoopee cushion kind of stuff. It still exists. You can still get whoopee cushions, but I don't know how funny people find gas-related jokes anymore. But I don't know. I'm probably just out of touch. I bet there's still a good core of people that think it's hilarious. The hand buzzers, where you take somebody's hand and it's supposed to give them an electric shock, but it doesn't actually give them an electric shock. It just buzzes. when I was a kid, we had my grandmother from Kentucky. She gave me an envelope of rattlesnake eggs. Okay, it wasn't really rattlesnake eggs. Okay, but that's what it was labeled as, and that's what she said. She said you have to be real careful, and if you squeeze the bag open, you can take a look in there and see if anything's hatched. I gotta wait for my daughter to go back to bed because she keeps popping out. She's super active for some reason. But and when you squeezed it and looked in, it would rattle. The bag would rattle and go, and you get started. But what it was like a paper clip with a rubber band wound up in just the right way. So when you opened the bag, or when you just released some pressure on the little bag, it would spin and it would rattle, and the bag would shake. So, and I liked that. I thought that was funny. My dad would do stuff sometimes. My dad would play pranks, mostly to teach you a lesson if he thought you were being ornery. There she goes. Okay. Because if I'm talking while she's out, she'll stop and she'll listen. And she's supposed to be going to bed. It's her bedtime. It's late. So anyway, my dad would play pranks if he thought you needed to be taught a lesson. Like when I was a kid, I used to be all excited for birthdays. I'm not excited for birthdays anymore. I don't really care. I don't do birthdays and holidays and whatever. You guys know that. But when I was a kid, it's a big thing. And maybe it's stuff like this that swore me off birthdays. I don't know. But one year, I must have been, I guess, really entitled or really, had a bad attitude, which was something that I had a lot as a kid. I tended to have poor attitudes a lot as a child. I was that kid that was not always in the best of moods or the best of spirits or appreciated the things that I had and whatnot, right? So one year for my birthday, they got a bunch of gag gifts along with my regular gifts. So when I first started opening them, one of them was a roll of toilet paper, which my dad thought was funny. One of them was a Barbie doll, clearly for one of my sisters. And when I inevitably got frustrated and really upset and really angry, he used that as the moment to be like, hey, you know what? You need to not be so entitled about your stuff. I could just take back all your real gifts if you want. And I had to be like, okay, no, I'm sorry, and things like that. And I did get my real gifts after that. But, that's the kind of stuff my dad did to try to tell you, hey, you should appreciate what you're getting, even if it is toilet paper and a Barbie doll. But, so he would do that. Now, honestly, when I was a kid, I would do a couple things, too. Like, we had, back in 91, 92, around that time frame, I'm always off about the exact year, but somewhere around there, we had a house fire, and the house was a complete loss, completely gone. I'm not trying to get sympathy and be like, because it's back in the 90s. It doesn't matter anymore now. It's years and years and years ago. So don't feel bad about it now. It's just one of those things that happened. But the house was a loss, so we had to clear off the land. And what we did was we cleared it out and we built a new house on the spot where the old house was, give or take a few feet, right? But before that, while it was being built, we had a trailer that we bought, that we parked next to the spot, because that's where the driveway was and everything. We lived in this trailer. And my room was right next to the bathroom. There was my room, there was the bathroom, and then there was my sister's room. My sisters all had to share a room. There were 3 sisters all in one room. That didn't go over very well. But that's, we were all young, so it was fine. So, but my room was right next to the bathroom. And in my closet, there was a panel that you could move. And it was supposed to be for, I don't know, for access or something like that, for some reason to go back and forth between the bathroom and the room. It wasn't supposed to be used for someone like me to go back and forth to the bathroom that way. You're supposed to go out, use the door, right? So I'd crawl through this little hole, go to the bathroom, and then I would lock the door. And then I would go back in my room. And I would leave the bathroom door locked so nobody else could get in it. Pretty mean-spirited, right? Pretty mean-spirited. And I guess that was a prank you could say that I would pull. I would do that. When I was a bit older, when I was in school, when I was in either middle school, I think it had to have been high school. I had to have been old enough to be able to go and hang out with people. Because I hung out, I was in marching band. You guys know that. I was in the marching band. And myself and a couple other people decided to play a prank on our band director, who was an easygoing guy. I don't know if anybody's ever... I'm sure somebody's told him that we did it by now, or if he even remembers. So I'm sure I'm not, breaking any long-standing taboos, spilling the beans on this. And I'm not going to say the other people's names, because that's up to them to say if they haven't said. I'm not going to say their names. But we all got together, and we TP'd his house. Now, what is that, you may ask? We threw rolls of toilet paper and long streamers in ways that they would all stream out over his house in the tree. Like the trees outside his house. That was a prank. So I'm no stranger to those sorts of things. I don't really care for them as an adult. I grew out of them, I suppose you could say. But I did pull a couple things like that when I was younger. And most of the time it wasn't in an attempt to be mean-spirited. I mean, the bathroom thing was probably pretty mean. It was funny to me at the time, and I would always go back in and unlock the door for them, after significant amounts of complaining and things. But, yeah, most of the time I didn't intend to be mean-spirited. I just thought certain things were funny. And I don't know if they would count as pranks for some people, but they count for me. Now, as an adult, like I said, I don't really do that. And there's been very few times when I've thought something was funny. Now, this one's for the adults, but it's not like mature content. It's just something I don't know if the kids would understand. But this is an adult. I want to explain to you guys. I thought this was funny. It's not super funny, and I don't want to get hit by censors or something because I guess it's technically political content, but I'm not making a political statement. I'm not, Back when, I don't remember if it was what year it was. If it was for the 2016 election in the United States or the 2020 election. I don't remember which one. And I'm not going to go too far into details with that because, again, it's not a political show. I'm not trying to get people upset and pick sides and whatever, right? But I thought this was funny at the time. There was a lot of talk about election interference, right? And people were saying that, oh yeah, it's from people with other countries and other things like that. And again, I don't want to rile anybody up, so please don't get into a big well, you're talking too general. This is exactly what happened, and it's so and so's fault. I'm not getting into that. I'm not. Let's keep it civil, okay? I'm not taking any sides. And but there was a lot of talk of that, and so apparently Russia put out an advertisement or a phone call. They put out a phone number that was a bogus phone number. If you called it, I don't think anything happened. Just like a recording played in Russian, so you had to understand Russian if you were going to do it. But they put out a phone number that you could call to request election interference if you were having trouble, and they would be happy to help. And they said this publicly as April Fools, and that was kind of funny. I know people don't want to think that anything like that is funny, and I get it. I get it. You know, the election process is what it is, and you shouldn't make fun of it. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. I thought it was funny at the time. That was before, of course, you know, the stuff going on with Ukraine and everything like that. And I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just mentioning. Okay, so don't be mad. Don't be mad. The band Nine Inch Nails has been known to do April Fool's things. Not they haven't done it the last few years, but there was quite a number of times where they would say, "Oh yeah, we're going to be putting out a new song today," and you would go and you'd listen, and it wouldn't be a song; it'd be some whatever. The one year they had a full album where they collaborated with a bunch of pop musicians, which was kind of foreshadowing because now they do collaborate with pop musicians, but at the time they didn't. And it was a fake album, of course. There were no real songs. You'd go and buy it, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, it looks like something went wrong," and you wouldn't be able to put your money through. So, they'd have fake performances. They'd say, "Oh yeah, we're going to be at this such and such," and then when you went to get tickets, the thing would not work or something like that. And other bands have done that. I don't know what she's doing. She keeps coming in and out, in and out. How many times a child has to go to the bathroom? I gotta keep pausing. But, yeah. That's, pranks and things. But most of the time I don't like them. I'm not a big fan. Because most of the time I feel like they're mean-spirited and they're at the expense of somebody rather than including somebody in on the joke. Right? You assume after the fact that somebody might think that was funny. So if it's a little mean, then you assume they'll laugh it off. But, you know, what if they don't? What if it's not funny? You know? Because just because you think it's funny doesn't mean it's funny for them. And that was usually me. I didn't think things were funny. I hated to be at the receiving end of a prank. Did not like it. I still don't. So please don't. Don't ever do that to me if you can help it. I would ask you kindly not to do that. But what about you? Oh, here's another one. I guess you could call this a prank. I don't know if I talked about this during my school episode. I might have. Because I had an episode about school. I think I did, didn't I? I don't even remember now. But if I did have an episode about school, I definitely would have talked about this. And if I didn't, well, now you're hearing it for the first time. There she goes, in and out, in and out. So what we did when I was either junior year or senior year of high school, I think it was senior year, because that's when I got away with the most stuff, because I didn't care about school at that point, which is not fair. If you have kids, out there who are listening, you should be good in school. I mean, I didn't like it, but that's no excuse for you. I mean, you do you. But what we did once was it was homecoming weekend coming up. Homecoming week or something like that. And that has something to do with sports. It's like a home game that's really important in the sports season or something like that, and that's why it's homecoming. I don't know. I really don't understand, and I don't much care to find out, to be fair. But we had homecoming. And every year around that time there's a homecoming dance, which, you know, if you have been a teenager in school, you know about that because you've probably gone to homecoming or you've gone to prom. It's something that still happens today. It's not like a tradition that's out of whatever. And so there's a homecoming queen and a homecoming king that are elected from the student body every year to like oversee everything. It's some silly thing. They get to dance at the whatever, and no big deal. It's just something that happens. But you can vote, right? So they had candidates, and this I don't know why they thought this was a good idea. They'd had people who'd been selected by like the student council or something like that, nominated, I guess. They'd been nominated. But they had a write-in vote where you could write in suggestions. And so we had a vice principal who I did not like. Many of us did not like him. No offense, sir, if you're out there. If you ever hear this episode, no offense. His name was Mr. Burns, not from The Simpsons. He wasn't an old guy, he was a younger guy at the time. Big puffed out chest. He was going to teach these kids to straighten up and things like that. He had an attitude about that. He was going to bring discipline back to the school, because we were undisciplined hooligans. Didn't like him at all. Didn't like the guy. So what I did was I got a bunch of my friends together. And I said, you know what we need to do? We need to give him a write-in vote for homecoming queen. Not homecoming king. Homecoming queen. And I don't want to get into gender stuff. I'm not trying to make a... At the time we were kids in high school, we didn't think about those kind of things. We just thought it would be funny and possibly humiliating for him. Right? And so we made this campaign where we talked to everybody. We were like, make sure you vote for Mr. Burns for homecoming queen. And we told everybody we knew, and spread. We made t-shirts. I made t-shirts. What I did was I bought a pack of just white generic brand t-shirts from Walmart or something. And I used a magic marker, a big Sharpie marker, and wrote Mr. Burns for homecoming queen on there. On each one. I gave them out to the various people who helped me organize things. And we gave him a slogan. We said, vote for Mr. Burns for homecoming queen, because he's a darn nice fella. Because, of course, he wasn't. He was not. At least we didn't think so at the time. I'm probably a little biased, so I don't want to deliberately go out and insult the guy, because it's a long time ago, for one. And for another, again, I had a lot of problems with school, so I was a bit mean-spirited at the time myself, which is why this is a prank, because it was mean-spirited. And at times he was a good sport, and at times he wasn't. He let us take a picture with him for the school yearbook of all of us wearing our shirts. But I guess other people he told he didn't like it. He was mad and it really bothered him. But there wasn't much he could do about it, because we weren't saying anything. The slogan was, because he's a darn nice fella. It wasn't saying anything insulting. We didn't deliberately say anything insulting about him when we told people to vote for him. We acted in relatively good faith. So he didn't like it. But he made the best of it, which is, I give him points for that. Fair play to you, Mr. Burns, from that little town in Pennsylvania. And it was said, and I don't know how true this was, because at the time I wasn't concerned with following things up like that. I was just like, oh, that's cool, that's hilarious, that's funny. But I was told by a couple of people. Whether they were reliable sources or not, I don't remember. But I was told that if they had actually tallied up his votes, they counted them up, but they didn't count them towards actually, because he wasn't going to get elected for, of course he wasn't going to be homecoming queen. There's no way they were going to do that. They weren't going to allow that, right? But if they had accepted his votes, I was told that he had enough to win. That's how big our campaign had gotten. Which was pretty impressive. Me being who I was at the time. Not the most popular person in the world. Similar to today, I suppose. Not the most popular person in the world. But Still, I count it as a success. It accomplished what I intended to do with it. It put him on the spot. But, and I'm trying to think if there are any other pranks that I participated in or that I can denounce. I don't know. There were a couple other things that I did in school that were, you could call them pranks, but they were meant to be mean-spirited, and I kind of feel bad about them now. And I'm not going to bring them up because they weren't nice. I was an angry kid. I did some things I wasn't supposed to. I shouldn't have. Not just breaking the rules, I did some things I shouldn't have done. Towards people that didn't deserve it. You know, and that's how it goes. And that's another reason why I don't like doing pranks anymore these days, because it's too easy to get into that. To think that, oh yeah, it's just going to be funny. And then it's not. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't like pranks. I don't like them. But, what have you folks done? Have you folks done any pranks over the years? Have you done anything that you're proud of? Things that you're not proud of? Let me know. Send me an email at uncannyspiritsclub@gmail.com, or once this hits YouTube, you can comment on this on YouTube and you can tell me all about it. Also, while you're there, don't forget to like the channel. Spider Does Things. Share it with your friends and subscribe, because it'll help me grow. And it'll help me give you more of these episodes. I might be more inclined to stick to my schedule and stay on track with everything. Will there be another episode next week? I don't know. As of this recording, it's Sunday. It's like a day before when I usually do it. Usually I do it on Mondays, but today is Sunday. Am I going to try to get it back on Mondays? I'm honestly not sure. If I do, then the time is going to change. It's going to end up being a late show. And if you have kids, then your kids are going to have to listen to it the next day probably, unless you let them stay up super late. Because right now, again, as of this recording, it's like 10 to midnight here in Eastern Standard Time in Ohio. But I am going to try to at least finish up Season 3. I don't want to say that that's going to be at the end of the show, because I like doing these. I've got so much stuff going on now that I don't know how that's going to work. So, yeah, that's how that goes. Let me see where we're at as far as Season 3. Let me see where we're at as far as Season 3, because this is episode 52. We are over halfway through Season 3. There's only 8 more episodes after this one before Season 3 is finished, and I take a break. And a real break, not just a, oops, I haven't had time break. So we'll see. I'll think about it as the weeks go on, and I'll try to get you more episodes between now and then. And, there we go. So that's it for me. I will see you folks when I see you. If you're going to play a prank, be nice about it. Don't be mean. Because the mean pranks are the worst. Alright?